Hey guys, here's the name of the manga. Okaya Mitsuhiko stands in the ruins of his personal life. His wife Miki has betrayed him, destroying a relationship that began during their university days. For years, Okaya admired her deeply and felt lucky to marry someone so popular and respected. Even now, he struggles to accept the truth that she had an affair with a younger coworker who was also his junior at work. What hurts even more is remembering how she blamed him after he caught them together. Now Miki is gone. She left with her lover, leaving Okaya alone in an empty house. Instead of fighting back, he chooses to quietly live with the pain and try to find peace. Okaya sits heavily on his sofa with his face buried in his hands. His messy appearance reflects the chaos inside him. After sitting there for a while, he decides he should eat something. He puts on a jacket, fixes himself up as best he can, and heads for the door. As he grabs the handle, he thinks about treating himself to an expensive meal, something very different from his normal habits, hoping good food might dull the pain in his heart. The heavy door swings open, but instead of an empty hallway, Okaya finds a young girl sitting outside his porch. She looks up at him and calls him sensei. Okaya freezes, completely confused by the sight of a teenage girl at his door. Wearing a high school uniform, she stares at him with deep emotion in her eyes. Before he can react, a loud voice breaks the silence. Another girl walks over, clearly angry. She has a rebellious gyaru style, with an open uniform and dyed blonde hair. She immediately blames Okaya for making the first girl cry. Okaya stands frozen, trying to understand what is happening. Two high school girls are standing at his house, and one of them seems very protective of the other. The blonde girl helps her sister stand and demands to know why she is upset. Stuttering, Okaya explains that he never meant to hurt anyone, though he still has no idea who the girls are. Then the mood suddenly changes. The blonde girl makes a shocking request. She asks if they can stay at his house for the night and offers an inappropriate trade in return for letting them stay. Both girls smile as if the offer is completely normal. Okaya stands speechless. When the gyaru repeats the offer and says they will do anything he asks, Okaya finally responds. He firmly tells them not to speak like that to adults. Even after he refuses and asks them to leave, the dark-haired girl reaches out and grabs his hand. She quietly pleads with him, saying they have nowhere else to go. Then the blonde girl asks if he seriously does not remember them and calls him by an old nickname, Okarin. The name suddenly unlocks his memory. Okaya realizes these are the twin sisters he once tutored during a part-time job at a learning center in the Toyonogo district many years ago. The little girls he once taught are now teenagers. The energetic blonde gyaru is Akari Ainya, while the quiet black-haired girl is Nanako Ainya. Relieved that he finally remembers them, Nanako steps forward and hugs him tightly. Okaya comments on how much she has grown, which quickly leads to the usual bickering between the sisters. Akari bluntly jokes about how much they have physically matured, proudly mentioning her F-cup size, while Nanako quickly tries to stop her from saying embarrassing things. As Okaya watches them, he realizes something important. Even though they have grown up and changed a lot physically, their personalities are exactly the same as he remembers. Akari is still playful and mischievous, while Nanako remains gentle and soft-spoken. The three of them move into the living room. The sisters sit on the sofa while Okaya tries to process everything. Curious, he asks how they even found his address. Akari smirks and says he should not underestimate their detective skills. Nanako softly apologizes and says she somehow remembered where he lived. Okaya finds that hard to believe. Even though he has lived in the same apartment for years, it still seems strange that they knew his exact address. After hesitating, Nanako finally explains the truth. Back when Okaya finished his tutoring job 10 years ago, the twins secretly followed him home as part of a game. Okaya is shocked by the confession and realizes he never noticed his students following him. He gently scolds them, saying that behavior is dangerous and should never be repeated. Nanako lowers her head and apologizes, but Akari quickly reveals that Nanako had actually been the most excited about their little stalking adventure. Embarrassed, Nanako immediately tells her sister to stop talking nonsense. Watching them argue feels strangely familiar to Okaya. Their relationship has barely changed over the years. The memories, mixed with the pain of his recent heartbreak, suddenly overwhelm him, and tears begin to fill his eyes. Akari notices and asks why he is crying. Okaya struggles to explain it and finally says it must be nostalgia. He wipes away his tears and apologizes, saying the reunion finally hit him emotionally. Trying to lighten the mood, he serves both girls glasses of cola. The twins thank him and apologize for showing up so suddenly. However, when Nanako reaches for a drink, her hand slips, and she spills cola onto her skirt. Akari immediately checks on her. Nanako insists she is fine, even though her skirt is clearly soaked. Akari sighs in relief but teases her anyway, joking that Nanako probably panicked because her hand touched Okaya's. Feeling guilty for causing trouble, Nanako apologizes again. Without thinking, Okaya gently pats and strokes Nanako's head to comfort her. He immediately freezes, surprised by his own action, and worried he crossed a line. Quickly, he asks if she feels uncomfortable, but Nanako looks up at him and quietly admits that it actually made her feel calmer. Breaking the moment, Akari asks if she can use the bathroom. Okaya agrees and leads the twins to it. Akari thanks him while pulling Nanako along beside her. When they reach the bathroom door, Akari glances back with a teasing smile and jokingly asks if Okaya plans to follow them inside. But before she can say more, Okaya has already stepped away and shut the door behind them. From the other side, he tells her to stop saying strange things and focus on changing her clothes. Akari sighs and quietly complains about how boring he can be. Standing alone in the hallway, Okaya suddenly feels strangely relieved. He quietly admits to himself that the heavy feeling in his chest seems lighter now, maybe simply because the twins are here with him. He walks back to the living room and drops onto the sofa, leaning his head back as he thinks about everything that happened. The entire day feels unreal, almost like a strange TV drama happening in real life. Only hours ago, his wife Mickey betrayed him and left with his junior coworker. Now, two high school girls, who used to be his students, have suddenly appeared at his home. The emotional shock leaves him exhausted. Normally, the silence in the house feels heavy and lonely. But now, the house feels filled with loud, unexpected energy. He knows letting two teenage girls stay overnight is risky, yet the loneliness left behind by Mickey makes it difficult to send them away. Suddenly, a loud cry comes from the bathroom. Startled, Okaya rushes toward the sound. He suddenly stops in shock. Standing there are Akari and Nanako wrapped only in towels. Steam from the hot water still fills the air. Akari points toward the washing machine and says it will not start. Beside her, Nanako looks worried and quietly asks what they should do now that their clothes are wet. Okaya immediately looks away, his face turning red from shock and frustration. Akari bursts into laughter, proudly teasing him for getting so flustered and saying they finally managed to surprise him. Nanako softly apologizes and explains that despite the teasing, the washing machine really does seem broken. Trying hard to stay calm, Okaya quickly grabs some clean clothes and tosses them toward the twins, firmly telling them to get dressed immediately. Akari keeps teasing him, asking why he acts so calm around two girls fresh out of the bath. She even points out that neither of them is wearing underwear, clearly trying to test his patience. Okaya keeps his eyes turned away and firmly says he has no interest in children like them. He tells them to stop saying inappropriate things. Still doubtful, he checks the washing machine himself and realizes it truly is broken. Akari giggles and points out that since they have no clean clothes, they cannot leave even if they wanted to. Okaya quietly thinks through the situation. A grown man letting two teenage girls stay over could easily create trouble, but Akari interrupts his thoughts, saying it is his responsibility to protect innocent girls like them. She asks if he really plans to throw them outside at night. Okaya glances at the clock. It is already 10 p.m. No repair shops are open at this hour, and the thought of the girls wandering outside late at night genuinely worries him. Then Akari suddenly bluntly asks if Okaya has somehow lost his manhood, wondering why he is showing so much self-control when most men would not. Nanako immediately scolds her for speaking so rudely. Okaya quietly understands part of what Akari means, not about himself, but about how vulnerable the twins are right now. Sensing his hesitation, Nanako sadly suggests they could just spend the night at a 24-hour laundromat. Hearing that finally pushes Okaya to decide. He firmly tells them they can stay at his house for the night. For a second, the sisters go silent. Then both of their faces light up with happiness. Akari cheers loudly while Nanako smiles warmly, and the twins hug each other in celebration. Watching them, Okaya feels an unfamiliar warmth in his chest. Even if he knows part of his decision came from instinct, from a protective side of himself, he thought had disappeared. Still, he makes one thing very clear: this is only for one night. They are allowed to stay tonight and nothing more. Meanwhile, in the bright office filled with harsh fluorescent lights, Okaya is approached by a male co-worker. The man leans closer and asks if Okaya knows the nickname everyone at work uses for him, the corner editor. Okaya looks confused and asks what he means. The coworker laughs, realizing Okaya has no idea. He explains that people call him that because he always sits near the window in the far corner, constantly working but impossible to read. The man asks if Okaya still has overtime to do, or if he is just avoiding going home. Okaya says he still has work. The coworker jokingly wishes him luck with his pointless overtime. Okaya calmly replies that his work is not pointless, and asks if the man is leaving. The coworker, Kasugao, happily nods and brags that he is going on a date with his beautiful girlfriend. He even offers to show a picture, proudly saying her name is Miki. The name hits Okaya like a punch. Suddenly, he jerks awake. His heart races as he realizes it was only a nightmare. He is lying on a futon on the floor. He gave his bed to Akari and Nanako for the night. From spending time with them, he already noticed their habits. Nanako sleeps deeply and falls asleep quickly, while Akari naturally takes care of others and acts like the responsible one. Okaya gathers himself, changes into his suit, and walks into the living room. To his surprise, Akari is already awake. She cheerfully greets him good morning. He notices she is somehow wearing the same uniform that got soaked with cola the night before. Confused, Okaya asks how it dried. With a proud grin, Akari explains that she kicked the broken washing machine and somehow it suddenly started working again. Before Okaya can react, the smell of food reaches him. Akari proudly reveals that she made breakfast. However, she quickly follows this up with a complaint. She scolds him for having an almost empty refrigerator, saying she had to go to the supermarket early in the morning without even wearing makeup. Okaya had not even noticed she left. Akari's expression turns sharper as she suddenly brings up Miki. Calling her shameless, she criticizes her for betraying her husband instead of taking care of him. Akari harshly declares that Miki failed not only as a wife, but as a person. The anger in Akari's voice makes Okaya pause. He asks how she could possibly know that Miki cheated on him. For a brief moment, Akari freezes, her confident expression slipping. But she quickly recovers and casually says she just happens to know a few things. Before quickly changing the subject to breakfast, she places a cup of iced coffee in front of him. No sugar, extra milk, exactly the way he likes it. Okaya feels touched, surprised that she still remembers something so specific after all these years. Akari tells him to stop looking so gloomy, especially over a foolish woman who never deserved him. She tells him to leave the past behind. Okaya quietly agrees, saying Miki is not his wife anymore anyway. Taking the chance, Akari suddenly jokes that he should simply replace her. She proudly offers herself as his new wife, with Nanako included as a bonus. Looking around, Akari notices Nanako is still missing, and guesses her sister is sleeping deeply as usual because of her low blood pressure in the morning. As Akari starts heading off to wake her, Okaya stops her and explains that he has to leave for work. Akari stares at him in disbelief. She asks why he has to work on a Saturday. Okaya sighs and explains that editors in the publishing world do not really get weekends off. Akari thinks a company like that sounds ridiculous and tells him he should quit. Okaya can only laugh tiredly. Just as he gets ready to leave, Akari suddenly steps closer and kisses him on the cheek. She calls it a lucky charm to help him get through the day. Okaya freezes in shock, but somehow feels encouraged. Without thinking, he promises to finish his work quickly and come home early. As he bends down to put on his shoes, he hears soft footsteps from the hallway. Nanako appears, her hair messy from sleep and her eyes still sleepy. Okaya looks up and asks if she just woke up. Nanako smiles gently and quietly greets him good morning before wishing him a safe day. Okaya nods and says goodbye, but as he walks out, one name from his nightmare refuses to leave his thoughts. Kasugao. Okaya works at Takanawa Books, and sadly, real life is not much different from the nightmare. Every day, Kasugao finds new ways to mock him while hiding his sharp personality behind a friendly image. The memory of the betrayal still burns inside Okaya. He remembers coming home late one night after work, exhausted and forgetting to message Miki. When he entered the bedroom, his world collapsed. He found Miki together with Kasugao. Ever since Kasugao joined the company, he has been skilled at manipulating people. With his charming looks and fake kindness, he easily wins people over, especially the women at work. Now, that same man is together with Miki. Determined to face him directly, Okaya arrives at the office. But before he can find Kasugao, he is suddenly called to the editor-in-chief's office. Standing outside the room, Okaya hesitates. He knows his face still looks tired and messy from everything happening in his life. After calming himself, he enters the office to meet his superior, Junakani. The meeting quickly takes a devastating turn. Junakane informs him that he is being fired. Shocked, Okaya immediately asks why he is suddenly being dismissed. Junakane bluntly explains that rumors have spread about Okaya's private life. According to those rumors, Okaya is the one having an affair. The irony almost feels cruel. Junakane asks if Okaya is even properly married, adding that the scandal supposedly involves another employee from Takanawa Books. Okaya immediately asks, who started such a ridiculous lie? Junakane calmly says the information came directly from Kasugao. Okaya asks why Junakane trusts Kasugao so easily. Without hesitation, Junakane says Kasugao is simply not the kind of person who would lie. The situation is a complete disaster, But instead of breaking down, a strange smile appears on Okaya's face. In a strange way, the timing feels perfect. He calmly tells Yunkeni that he is resigning. The editor-in-chief looks shocked by the sudden response. Okaya repeats himself, saying that since Junkane already wanted him gone, there is no reason to stay. Junikane quickly tries to explain that he only meant for Okaya to step away from important company matters for a while. But Okaya has already heard enough. Without another word, he turns around and walks out of the office. He leaves the company behind without looking back. Later, standing alone on the rooftop, Okaya lets out a loud scream. All of his anger, betrayal, and frustration spill out into the open air. When the sound finally fades, he stands there, breathing heavily. Soon an older man approaches him. It is Yujimatsu, the deputy editor-in-chief. Sensing the burden on Okaya's shoulders, Yujimatsu invites him to sit and talk. After hearing everything about the betrayal and false rumors, Yujimatsu slowly nods. He admits that he suspected something was wrong from the beginning. He explains that he never once believed the rumors that Okaya cheated. In fact, he had already tried to tell Junikane his doubts, but the editor-in-chief ignored him, dismissing the opinion of an older employee like him. Okaya quietly asks if Yujimatsu really believes him. Without hesitation, Yujimatsu says yes. He tells Okaya that anyone who works with him can clearly see his character. Okaya works harder than anyone, stays late every night, and always puts the team before himself. A man with that much dedication and honesty, Yujimatsu says, would never do something so dirty. Hearing someone believe in him fills Okaya with relief. For the first time in a while, he feels seen. Then Yujimatsu suddenly changes the topic. He offers Okaya a surprising proposal. He asks him to help start a brand new publishing company together. Seeing Okaya's confusion, Yujimatsu explains that he plans to resign soon and open a small publishing business focused on light novels. He says he is tired of Takanawa's strict system, where many good stories are thrown away simply because they do not instantly show high numbers. Yujimatsu hates seeing stories disappear without ever getting the chance to reach readers. Yujimatsu continues speaking and explains how much he hates the company's unhealthy work culture. He complains about endless overtime and forced weekend work, calling it inhuman for office workers. As Okaya listens, he suddenly remembers Akari saying something similar that morning, telling him to quit a job that treated him so badly. Slowly, Okaya realizes this may be the path he should take. He agrees to join Yujimatsu's new business. The two men firmly shake hands, marking the start of a new chapter and a new goal they will work toward together. By the time Okaya finally returns home, the evening sky has turned dark purple. He feels completely exhausted, both physically and emotionally, after everything that happened that day. Walking into his bedroom, he immediately drops onto the bed, wanting nothing more than sleep. But as he settles down, he suddenly feels something soft beside him. Startled, he looks over and realizes Nanako is already sleeping on the bed. Before he can move away, Nanako shifts in her sleep and wraps her arms around him, pulling him into a warm embrace. At the doorway, Akari peeks into the room with a knowing smile. Okaya notices her right away and quickly panics. In a quiet but urgent voice, he insists that whatever she is thinking is completely wrong. Unbothered, Akari whispers back that she understands perfectly. She even jokingly offers to leave them alone so they can enjoy their special moment. The noise wakes Nanako. Still sleepy, she rubs her eyes and complains that Akari is being too loud. Half asleep and confused, Nanako pulls Okaya even closer, clearly mistaking him for her sister. Akari suddenly lets out a dramatic shout, joking that it would be a disaster if Okaya came home and found Nanako sleeping in his bed. Hearing his name, Nanako finally looks up properly. Her eyes widen in shock when she realizes whose face is only inches away from hers. Okaya quickly pulls back and nervously explains that nothing inappropriate happened. A little later, Okaya and Akari stand outside the bedroom. He gently scolds her for teasing Nanako like that, though he soon notices something important. A vacuum cleaner sits near the bed. From that, he realizes Nanako must have spent the day cleaning his home before collapsing from exhaustion. Akari gives him a sincere apology before telling him dinner is ready and suggesting they eat while the food is still warm. Soon the three gather around the table. Several homemade dishes are waiting for them. After taking his first bite, Okaya is genuinely surprised by how good the food tastes. When he asks how she made it so delicious, Akari casually says her secret ingredient is love. Okaya immediately struggles to respond. Seeing his reaction, Akari becomes serious for a moment. She explains that she truly wants to become his wife and has spent time learning to cook for that reason. When Okaya stays silent, Akari sighs and guesses he still thinks she is joking. Nanako quietly adds that Okaya probably still sees them only as the little girls he once tutored. Still, Akari refuses to lose hope. She cheerfully says they still have a long way to go, so they should stay positive. When Okaya sincerely thanks them for the meal, both sisters suddenly blush red, clearly touched by his gratitude. The conversation soon becomes serious. Akari asks what he plans to do about Miki. Okaya firmly says he plans to divorce her as soon as possible. He explains that he has tried contacting her to discuss things face to face, but she still has not responded. The sisters visibly relax, looking relieved by his answer. Okaya admits that he no longer cares about money, property, or alimony. He simply wants everything to end. Akari comments that since he worked at such a famous company, he could easily recover from any financial loss. Then Okaya suddenly drops shocking news. He quit his job. The sisters freeze in surprise. Nanako quickly asks why he would do something like that. Okaya struggles to explain all the office politics, but tells them the deputy editor-in-chief is starting a new publishing company and invited him to join. He reassures them that he has enough savings for now, even if he earns less money in the future. Akari quickly recovers and jokes that, as his second young wife, she will manage the house finances. She jokingly says Nanako, as the first young wife, can focus on saving money. She even starts making strange comments about how they should manage nighttime activities to save energy. Okaya immediately cuts her off and tells her to stop. Then his expression turns serious. He reminds them of the original rule that they were only staying for one night. He asks what they really meant earlier when they said they had nowhere to go. He carefully asks if their parents are worried about them. Akari immediately laughs bitterly and says their parents could never care about them. Nanako quietly adds that she never wants to return to that house. Concerned, Okaya suggests reporting the situation to the police or child welfare services, but Akari shakes her head. She explains that those options cannot help them. They already tried asking for help elsewhere before coming to him, but nothing changed. As Okaya watches Nanako calm and increasingly upset Akari, he starts to understand how serious their situation really is. The fact that nothing has improved makes him realize this is a deep family problem. Akari explains that their grandparents have already passed away, while the rest of their relatives pretend they do not exist. Nanako then looks at Okaya with pleading eyes. She quietly says that, for now, he is the only adult they feel they can rely on. A wave of guilt hits Okaya. He remembers how Akari spent the entire day trying to cheer him up after his divorce, even while she and Nanako were struggling with serious problems of their own. Despite their situation, they chose to comfort him. At that moment, Okaya realizes how focused he has been on his own pain. Now he quietly wonders what someone like him can possibly do to help them. Noticing the slight trembling in both sisters, Okaya finally makes a decision. He tells them they can stay at his home for as long as they need. Nanako looks surprised and asks what exactly he means. She worries about the legal problems of two minors staying with him and the money it may cost, especially since he just quit his job. Okaya gently reaches out and strokes Nanako's hair. He tells her that worries like money and responsibilities are not things children should have to carry. Nanako's eyes begin to shine with emotion. Okaya looks at both sisters and promises that from now on, they do not need to worry about living expenses. He tells them that tomorrow they will go shopping together and buy whatever they need for daily life. Akari instantly brightens up. With sparkling eyes, she excitedly asks if he really means it. Nanako still hesitates, quietly saying she feels bad about becoming a burden. Okaya reassures her that he does not feel burdened at all. He asks them both to relax and treat his home as their own. Overjoyed, Akari jokes that she feels like kissing him and happily says she is relieved they can finally live peacefully by his side. When Okaya asks about school, Akari explains that they are currently on spring break, so there is no urgent problem. Nanako adds that their school is not far away, only a short train ride from his apartment, and since the new semester has not started yet, they still have time to settle in. Okaya asks about school fees. Nanako quickly reassures him that tuition is already taken care of. Okaya nods and tells them to come to him if any other problems appear. Still, he keeps one firm rule. At some point, they must talk to their parents. He cannot allow them to stay forever without their parents knowing anything. Akari and Nanako both nod in agreement. The next morning, Akari wakes up first while Nanako remains deeply asleep. In her sleep, Nanako softly mumbles Okaya's name. Her dreaming mind drifts toward thoughts of leaving home. Still asleep, she quietly tells Akari not to worry and promises they will always stay together. Akari leans closer and whispers softly that she will be happy as long as Nanako is happy. She quietly says Okaya's name too. The sound suddenly makes Nanako wake up. Still confused, she quickly asks what happened to Okaya. Akari quickly laughs it off and says it is nothing. As Nanako slowly falls asleep again, Akari watches her with a gentle smile. Quietly, she hopes for Nanako's happiness. At the same time, she strengthens a secret goal inside her heart. She wants to bring Nanako and Okaya together as a couple. A while later, Okaya slides open the bedroom door. He finds Akari and Nanako talking about something, and from the sound of it, the topic seems to be him. Akari immediately greets him with her usual cheerful energy. Her loud good morning quickly fills the room. Okaya comments on how energetic she seems today. Proudly, Akari says that staying cheerful is one of her greatest strengths. She nudges Nanako and encourages her to greet him too. Nanako quietly gives a shy good morning. Akari leans toward her sister and whispers into her ear. She teasingly says that while Nanako has grown into a beautiful girl, being this shy will never help her win Okaya's heart. Akari says Nanako needs to act a little bolder. Okaya silently watches them. He cannot hear the whisper, but he can sense the strange little exchange between the sisters. The mood changes slightly when Akari apologizes. She says she has not prepared breakfast yet. Before she can head to the kitchen, Okaya gently reaches out and pats her head. He firmly tells her that making meals is not her responsibility. He reminds her that neither she nor Nanako are servants. Akari freezes in surprise. His words bring back painful memories of home. Her family often reminded her how expensive it was to raise the twins and acted as if cooking was the least she could do in return. They even mocked her cruelly, joking that all her nutrients went to her chest instead of her brain, making her too stupid to understand simple things. Noticing her blank expression, Okaya grows worried. Akari quickly tries to brush it off, saying she feels uncomfortable doing nothing. But Okaya gently stops her. He tells her not to worry so much about other people. At her age, she should not be carrying such heavy responsibilities. He thanks her for trying to help, but says she does not need to push herself so hard. He tells her to leave difficult responsibilities to adults. For the first time in her life, Akari feels like someone is allowing her to simply be a child. Trying to lighten the mood, Okaya suggests they go outside and buy a nice breakfast instead. Nanako happily agrees. Akari, still trying to process everything, quietly nods. Soon the three arrive at a local restaurant. Okaya tells them it is one of his favorite places. Nanako immediately loves the atmosphere and happily praises the food. She turns to Akari and asks if she likes it too. The question catches Akari off guard and pulls her from her thoughts. She nervously says yes while suddenly becoming very aware of her surroundings. Only then does she realize she is sitting directly beside Okaya. A small wave of panic hits her. If her matchmaking plan is supposed to work, she thinks Nanako should be sitting there instead. But when Akari glances at her sister, she sees Nanako smiling brightly, her expression glowing with happiness. Watching them, Okaya quietly smiles to himself. For some reason, he suddenly feels nostalgic. Curious, Akari asks what he means. Okaya looks around the table and explains that their seating arrangement reminds him of the old days, when he tutored them. With a small smile, he remembers how Akari could never sit still whenever she sat beside Nanako. But whenever Akari sat next to him, she suddenly became calm and quiet. Hearing this, Akari finally realizes something. Back then, staying quiet beside him was only natural. It was simply the reaction of a young girl sitting beside the person she liked. Trying to stop herself from overthinking, Akari suddenly hears Okaya ask if she wants a cream soda. He mentions that this restaurant serves the best cream soda in town. The simple gesture makes Akari blush. Her heart flutters at how naturally thoughtful he is. The peaceful moment is suddenly interrupted by a phone ringing in Okaya's pocket. As he takes it out, Akari catches a quick look at the caller name. Rashia-sensei? Instantly, suspicion grows in her mind. Is Rashia a woman? The thought suddenly bothers her. Even if Okaya is technically single now, he is still kind, reliable, and impressive. Of course, other women besides Nanako might be interested in him. The idea makes her secret plan much harder. After all, she wants Nanako to end up with Okaya. While Okaya steps away to answer the call, Akari turns toward Nanako. Trying to sound casual, she comments on how delicious breakfast is. Nanako happily agrees and excitedly says she is looking forward to their shopping trip later. After a short pause, Akari suddenly becomes serious. She softly calls out to Nanako. When Nanako asks what is wrong, Akari sincerely says that she only wants Nanako to be happy. Before she can continue, Nanako gently grabs her hand. She tells Akari that she does not want happiness alone. She wants both of them to be happy together, just like always. Akari is briefly overwhelmed by memories of everything they have shared and endured together. She smiles softly. If they are supposed to be happy together, she jokingly decides that the solution is simple. Okaya should marry both of them. Nanako immediately blushes and tells her sister to stop saying ridiculous things. She warns Akari that if they push too hard, they might scare Okaya away. But Akari refuses to give up. She insists that Okaya is too kind to run away so easily and jokingly starts talking about a teamwork strategy to win him over. Nanako still looks doubtful, but Akari keeps encouraging her. A few moments later, Okaya returns. He notices how serious their whispered conversation looks. Playfully, he scolds them and says they somehow caused a commotion among the other customers. Even though he was gone for only a minute, Akari immediately goes back to acting playful. She clings to Okaya and loudly announces how much she loves Nanako. Nanako lets out a tired sigh, already used to her sister's overwhelming energy. Suddenly, Okaya's phone rings again. At first, he assumes it is another call from Rashia-sensei. But when he checks the screen, his expression changes. It is not a call. It is a text message from Miki. In the message, Miki apologizes and says she wants to fix things and restart their relationship from the beginning. To Okaya, both the timing and the message feel suspicious. The bright, peaceful mood of the morning instantly fades. Okaya stares at the screen in silence. The message feels strangely heavy in his hand. The change in his mood is obvious. The cheerful atmosphere disappears immediately. He tells Akari and Nanako that they need to head home right away. Apologizing sincerely, he explains that he cannot take them shopping anymore. Still, he reassures them that they can go later in the afternoon, after he finishes an important meeting. The sisters quickly notice the tension. Back at the apartment, Nanako quietly watches him. In a worried voice, she gently asks if the person he plans to meet is his wife. Before Okaya can answer, Akari loudly reacts from the kitchen. She demands to know if he seriously plans to meet that shameless woman again. The twins had already noticed something was wrong during breakfast. By now, they have guessed that Miki is the reason for his strange behavior. Okaya sighs and admits the truth. He explains that Miki contacted him, apologized, and asked to restart their relationship. Akari's face immediately turns red with anger. She cannot believe Miki has the nerve to come back after causing so much pain. Even Nanako, who is usually calm, quietly agrees. She says she has never seen someone act with so little respect. To betray someone and then casually ask for forgiveness as if nothing happened feels unbelievable to her. Okaya silently watches the two sisters fiercely defend him. Sensing hesitation in his expression, Akari suddenly asks him directly if he plans to take Miki back. Okaya firmly answers no. That will never happen. Immediately, relief spreads across both sisters' faces. The tension in the room eases. Okaya explains that he only plans to meet Miki tomorrow to officially end things. He needs her signature on the divorce papers so he can finally move on. Hearing this, Akari nods with approval. She confidently says ending things completely is clearly the best decision. Nanako quietly wonders why Miki suddenly wants to reconcile now. Akari stares at her in disbelief and asks if the answer is not obvious. She guesses that Miki was probably abandoned by the man she cheated with. Nanako hesitates, saying that if the man had an affair with Miki, he probably loved her. But Akari quickly disagrees. She argues that younger men can act impulsively and lose interest once the excitement disappears. Slowly, Nanako begins to understand. If Miki was abandoned and suddenly came back to Okaya, then this was not love. She was probably looking for safety and security. The thought makes Nanako feel disgusted. Akari agrees. She says truly sorry people apologize, face-to-face right away. Instead of sending suspicious messages, to Nanako the entire thing feels arrogant and manipulative. Eventually, Okaya interrupts. He says there is no point wasting energy being angry at someone like Miki. The sisters reluctantly agree. Akari then asks for details about the meeting. Okaya tells them it will happen tomorrow at 10 a.m. at Arakuma Cafe near the station. The sisters immediately ask if they can come. But Okaya firmly refuses. He says this is something he must settle on his own. After making them promise to stay home, the sisters reluctantly agree. Nanako adds one final thing. She tells Okaya that if things become difficult, he should call them, and they will come with their secret weapon. Okaya looks confused by the strange phrase, but Akari refuses to explain, proudly saying that their weapon is powerful enough to chase Miki away in one hit. Okaya lightly sighs and says that all he needs is her signature on the divorce papers, so there is no need for anything so dramatic. The next morning, a woman sits alone inside the cafe. Okaya arrives shortly after and tells the staff he has a reservation. As he walks toward the table, he feels no pity for Miki. Whether Kasugawa abandoned her or not no longer matters to him. His only goal is simple: get her signature and end their relationship forever. Miki starts the conversation by thanking him for taking time out of his busy day to meet her. But Okaya cuts straight to the point. Before any long explanation begins, there is something she must do first. Miki hesitates and quietly apologizes for betraying him. Okaya coldly corrects her. There is nothing unclear about what happened. She cheated on him and destroyed their marriage. Miki tries to argue that she was not the one who started the affair, but Okaya refuses to listen to excuses. He calmly places the divorce papers on the table. Then he tells her to sign them immediately. Mickey suddenly stands up, her voice rising as she tries to explain herself. Okaya remains calm. He tells her to sit down and stop disturbing the other people in the cafe. Reluctantly, she sits again and begs him to talk things through properly. Okaya stares at her with a cold expression. He reminds her that she was his wife, yet still chose to be with another man. He quietly asks what is even left to explain. Then he waits in silence, curious about what excuse she will try to make. Mickey suddenly stands again. Her expression changes as she insists everything Okaya believes is wrong. Okaya watches calmly as she moves to sit beside him. Lowering her voice, Mickey desperately begs him to start over with her. Okaya looks at her without emotion. He asks if she really believes acting close to him will suddenly change his mind. After everything that happened, he makes it clear that he has absolutely no intention of forgiving her. When Mickey asks why he is being so stubborn, Okaya stands and takes a step away. He firmly says they are no longer husband and wife. He no longer wants her close to him. Then he moves back to the seat across from her, creating distance between them. His answer stays the same. The divorce will happen today. He calmly says he is fine living alone while she is free to spend the rest of her life with Kasugao. Mickey suddenly turns pale. In a shaking voice, she says, "That is impossible." Okaya raises an eyebrow and asks why. Did Kasugao already leave her? He calmly lays out what he thinks happened. After losing her younger lover and realizing she has nowhere to go and no financial safety, she came back to her dependable husband because he had stability. Mickey immediately shouts and denies everything. Okaya stays calm. He points out that if he were completely wrong, she would not be reacting so desperately. He reminds her that she left their home without a word and disappeared. Now she suddenly wants to return and expects him to trust her again. Taking a slow sip of coffee, Okaya says his decision is final. No amount of talking will change his mind. Realizing she's losing control of the situation, Mickey suddenly changes her story. She claims Kasugao forced his way into their lives and pressured her into the affair. For a moment, Okaya looks confused by the sudden change, but he quickly interrupts her. Her voice is getting too loud and disturbing everyone around them. Mickey continues pushing her story. Clearly nervous, she asks if Okaya even truly saw everything with his own eyes. Okaya admits that when he came home that night, he only saw a brief but painful moment. Hearing this, Mickey suddenly slams her hand on the table. She challenges him to show proof that she cheated. Without proof, she confidently claims, he cannot move forward with the divorce. For a brief second, doubt crosses Okaya's mind. Could there be even a tiny chance she is telling the truth? But the thought disappears instantly. A calm and confident voice suddenly echoes through the cafe. Someone says the proof she wants actually exists. Okaya looks up in surprise. Standing there are Nanako and Akari. They have arrived. Like unexpected backup, the sisters appear because they were too worried about Okaya to leave him alone. Their sudden presence cuts through the tension in the cafe. Mickey stares at the two girls in confusion and demands to know who they are. Without missing a beat, the sisters fire back that it is none of her business. Then, with open irritation, they call her Obasan, a teasing jab at her age that clearly hits a nerve. Akari and Nanako openly mock Mickey. They cannot believe a grown woman would cheat on her husband, get abandoned, and then shamelessly return to beg for another chance. The insults quickly make Mickey lose her temper. In a burst of anger, she suddenly lunges forward and tries to slap Akari. But before her hand can land, Okaya instantly grabs her wrist in mid-air. He looks at her with cold disgust. He asks how she can sink so low as to try hitting a child. Mickey immediately screams, demanding to know why he is protecting these strangers. Okaya calmly tells her this is not about choosing sides. Any adult who tries to hit a minor is clearly acting irrationally. He then turns toward Akari and asks if she is okay. Akari cheerfully says she is perfectly fine. When Okaya asks why the sisters followed him, Nanako quietly explains that they brought the promised evidence. With dramatic timing, Akari pulls out her phone. She proudly announces that this is their secret weapon. It contains proof of Mickey's affair. Mickey instantly begins shouting in protest. Ignoring her, Akari shows several clear photos of Mickey and Kasugao together inside the apartment. Akari explains that she had already been there before Okaya returned home that night and personally witnessed everything. Desperate, Mickey claims the photos are fake and edited. She suddenly tries to snatch the phone, but Okaya immediately stops her again and firmly tells her to keep her hands away from the girls. As panic grows on Mickey's face, Akari raises the pressure even more. If Mickey thinks the photos are fake, then maybe she should watch the video. Akari plays a recording that leaves no room for excuses. The confidence immediately disappears from Mickey's face. Her expression falls apart. In a weak voice, she begs them to stop. Nanako calmly steps forward. In a quiet but firm tone, she explains what this means legally. If evidence like this reaches court, Mickey will lose badly. She could end up paying heavy compensation to Okaya, money she clearly does not have. Nanako quietly points out the sad reality Mickey created for herself. She cannot return to her parents because of the shame of the affair, and now she cannot force her way back into Okaya's life either. Nanako adds that if needed, both she and Akari are fully prepared to testify in court. Finally cornered, Mickey breaks down. Through tears, she admits the affair and confesses everything. She says she has no savings, no stable work, and nowhere to go. Desperately, she asks if Okia truly plans to abandon her. Okaya answers immediately. Yes, his decision will not change. He calmly reveals that he recorded their entire conversation. Then he gives her one final choice. Sign the divorce papers now, or face him in court with the recordings and the sister's evidence. Mickey suddenly shouts that recording her is illegal. But Okaya no longer cares about arguments. He only wants to end their marriage immediately. The three stand up and begin to leave. But behind them, Mickey desperately shouts one last demand. She wants part of the marital property. Okaya, Akari, and Nanako stop walking. Slowly, they turn back and stare at her with disbelief. Mickey argues that everything should belong to both of them, but Okaya quickly shuts the idea down. He reminds her that the apartment and most expensive furniture were bought by him long before they got married. She has no right to claim them. Coldly, he says he will simply send her belongings, like her clothes and makeup, back to her parents' house. Akari and Nanako stand there in shock. Even now, after everything she did, Mickey is still trying to get money from the man she betrayed. Nanako quietly admits that, even as another woman, she finds Mickey's behavior disgusting. The sisters give Mickey one final sharp warning. She should never come near Okaya again. Without another word, the three walk out of the cafe, leaving Mickey collapsed on the floor, surrounded by the mess she created herself. If you enjoy my videos, please subscribe to the channel. It really helps more than you think. And if you'd like to support me further, consider joining my Patreon. I'm not making much from the channel at the moment, so every bit of support truly means a lot. You'll get ad-free videos and shoutouts as a thank you for helping me keep this.
Please!
Subscribe.
I need this! My mom is kind of homeless.